Hello, I'm Donald Duke, and welcome to this episode of Bridging the Gap. The primary essence of governance is enhancing the productivity of every individual within its constituency. And one of the ways of doing this is ensuring that the things that we can produce ought to be produced locally rather than importing. Because importation, frankly, provides jobs outside the country. Production, or enhancing production, or adding value to whatever we are producing, or whatever is even imported, ensures that folks at home have jobs and keeps them busy. I'll give you a few examples. Let's take a daily product like soap, for instance, which each and every one of us use several times in a day. The basic raw material for this product is caustic soda. We all know that there's no caustic soda production plant in the country. So you think of it, every time we use a soap, even if it has a label made in Nigeria, the basic ingredients that make this soap are imported. Now, this slavishly puts our economy under the aegis of others. Let's take another product that we consume on a daily basis, bread. Bread is essentially a product of wheat. And we all know that wheat doesn't grow in Nigeria, at least not in commercial quantity yet. So each time we have that loaf of bread, we're enhancing wheat farmers somewhere across the world. No nation can thrive without its people being productive. The essence of this discourse is to ensure that each Nigerian feels fulfilled, right, in his capacity to not just fend for himself, but fend for his dependents. And if we are in a nation that spends most of her resources importing what we ought to be producing locally, then that level of productivity will not be achieved. I need to constantly remind this audience that we are growing at an astronomical rate in our population. At the turn of independence, we were barely 45 million. Today, as I speak, we're approaching 198 million, and in another 2 years, we'll be 206 million. 30 years hence, we'll be 400 million and we'll be the third most populous nation in the world. That should get us worried. These kids that we're churning out of school in the thousands, what is the future for them? What are we doing for them? What foundation are we laying for them? These are things that, of course, give me sleepless nights. And these are things that I think each and every one of us who are opportune to serve or can contribute towards the governance of our country should be concerned about. So, for instance, the famous agege bread that we all love to eat, is not that much of agege actually. The basic raw material to produce it, the wheat, the margarine or the butter that is applied, all these things are imported. So at the end of the day, what is local? We have an organization called FIRO, F-I-I-R-O, the Federal Industrial Research Institute or so. We have universities, and we are largely an agrarian society. We could use other products as a substitute for wheat. In the brewing industry, we substituted barley and malt for malted sorghum and maize. So research can produce effective substitutes. The star beer we drink, the raw material is sorghum. It's local. And that keeps thousands of farmers working. We did that for several years, and there was a boom in the maize growing industry, the sorghum growing industry. And not one of us could tell the difference between the imported barley that we were using hitherto and the local sorghum that was being produced, because the research was good. Why can't we extend that to a commodity like bread that we consume on a daily basis? Why don't we find or produce caustic soda? Because caustic soda, the basic raw materials that are locally available anyway. The industry is there. So there's several other things. I mean, take our textile. None of us here wear textile made in Nigeria. We can call it adire and this and that, but basically the cloth is imported. Then you can make the various designs and all that. And you know what? We used to have a viable textile cotton growing industry in the northeastern part of Nigeria, primarily Adamawa, Taraba and all that. That was our cotton belt. But we got into the binge of importing. And with the importation of fabric from around the world, the textile mills were not viable and could not compete, and so they shut down. Once that shut down, the cotton growers were out of business. So there's a chain reaction here. And like I said earlier on, the basic tenet of governance is to enhance the productivity of every single individual within the constituency. And the things required for that are education and skills, good health, the requisite infrastructure. Today, because of the dynamism of the world, the adoption of the requisite technology, and more importantly also, policy enhancement to make all this work. This is what is lacking in Nigeria. One of the saddest aspects of this is what we are known for, crude oil. We're the 7th largest producer of this commodity called petroleum oil. And we have a capacity to produce about 2.5 million barrels of this commodity daily. No one uses this commodity in its natural